It's been the topic of controversial debate for just about its entire existence. But why? What has it ever done to deserve such a nasty reputation? And are there any real benefits associated with its consumption? With its recent legalization across the country and the world, one might even wonder, why was it ever illegal to begin with? We explore those questions and more on this GV Docs presentation of Evergreen, the story of cannabis. As far back as 10,000 years ago, cannabis was one of the first crops grown when farming began. Hemp, a variety of the cannabis plant, was used in ancient China to create clothing and rope. It was, and still is, non-psychoactive, which means it doesn't affect the mind or the mental processes. In other words, if you smoke it, you won't get high. The first recorded use of the cannabis plant that does get you high was approximately 2737 BCE. Emperor Shen Neng of China used the plant as medicine for things like gout and malaria. For the next 3,000 years or so, cannabis used for medical purposes slowly spread throughout Asia and into Europe. In ancient India, they mixed it into a drink called bang. In Greece, cannabis seeds had been consumed recreationally, and in 2nd century CE, the Greek doctor Galen prescribed cannabis as medicine to treat pain in patients undergoing surgery. Cannabis was pretty popular in the Middle East as well. Muslims there weren't supposed to drink wine, but nobody said anything about grass, or hashish, as they called it. Christopher Columbus brought rope made of hemp on his first voyage to the New World in 1492, and both the French and British had their colonists grow cannabis regularly. Fast forward to the 1800s, cannabis is a major trade item around the world. Cannabis plantations are scattered throughout the US. Doctors everywhere are recommending cannabis for its medicinal uses, and it can easily be found and bought in general stores. However, in the late 1800s, the rise of alcoholism and opium addiction would cause people to question the safety of cannabis and its effects on the brain. Early 1900s, the progressive era in the US, many progressives calling for stricter regulations against potentially harmful drugs. First, the government passed the Pure Food and Drug Act, which said cannabis was dangerous and required it be labeled before being sold. Loco weed, they called it. Next, the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act officially made drug use a crime for the first time. All the while, cannabis was slowly becoming more of a recreational drug as opposed to a medicinal one, with people commonly smoking it in cigarettes and pipes. Many Mexicans in particular smoked cannabis at the time, and after millions of illegal Mexican immigrants flooded into the US due to the Mexican Revolution, they brought the habit along with them. They called cannabis marijuana, and Mexicans became strongly associated with the drug. Perhaps one man is responsible for cannabis becoming illegal more so than any other person in history. This guy, Harry Anslinger. Anslinger was the first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. He launched a relentless campaign against cannabis, testifying before Congress to get them to make the plant illegal. The following are actual quotes from Anslinger. There are more than 100,000 total marijuana smokers in the US, and most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their Satan music, jazz, and swing result from marijuana use. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and any others. Reefer makes darkies think they're as good as white men. Marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind. Anslinger chose his words carefully, as his goal was to instill fear into the American public about cannabis. Notice how he refers to cannabis as marijuana to make it sound more foreign, causing it to be associated with immigrants. From this point forward, marijuana became the most common way of referring to the drug. He also led a mass media propaganda campaign against cannabis. The film Reefer Madness, produced by Anslinger and friends, showed good people getting violent and going crazy simply due to smoking marijuana. The film was seen by millions and helped Anslinger convince Congress to pass the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. As per usual, the media barely paid attention and few actually debated the law. The only one to speak out against the bill was William Woodward, a representative of the American Medical Association, who said the bill, quote, loses sight of the fact that future investigation may show there are substantial medical uses for cannabis. Congress ignored Woodward, the law passed, everybody's afraid of marijuana, the Boggs Act, which created a mandatory minimum prison sentence for all drug crimes. The Narcotics Control Act, even stricter mandatory sentences for marijuana-related offenses. Because of all this craziness, marijuana became a thing of the underground. It became associated with counterculture, or culture going against mainstream culture. By the 1950s, marijuana was so taboo it became a symbol of rebellion against authority. The American counterculture movement of the 60s, hippies, college students, they loved marijuana. Meanwhile, soldiers are smoking marijuana and all kinds of crazy drugs in the Vietnam War. This freaked out a lot of Americans, and in 1968, Richard Nixon, who promised to restore law and order, was elected president partially due to this freaking out of people. With that, marijuana became a Schedule I drug, therefore eligible for the heaviest restrictions and penalties. Officially banned, completely illegal in all cases in the United States. In 1972, the Schaefer Commission, created by Nixon himself, found that marijuana wasn't as dangerous as the other Schedule I drugs and was like, hey, let's decriminalize it, let's make the punishments less harsh, to which President Nixon replied, cool story bro, don't care. Nixon found it convenient to keep marijuana illegal to control those darn hippies. Matter of fact, Nixon declared a full-blown war on drugs when he created the DEA, or the Drug Enforcement Administration, in 1975. Despite all of this, marijuana use actually continued to increase. The 80s saw anti-drug propaganda at its height, with President Ronald Reagan. Fast forward to the 1990s, law enforcement across the nation cracked down hard on marijuana users. Millions still call for making medical marijuana legal. In 1996, California passes Proposition 215, which legalized medical marijuana once again. November 6, 2012, both Colorado and Washington completely legalized marijuana for adults, after seeing how much money they were going to make from taxing it. This map shows you the current situation, but each year laws are quickly changing worldwide. So what did we learn from all of this? It seems that throughout history, not much has changed. The angst and ill feelings of a loud few can produce rules and regulations consequential to the masses. Starting with Anslinger. My guess would be one night Anslinger was out having a good time and bumped into a few of those Hispanics and Negroes smoking marijuana. Maybe there was a party Anslinger wasn't invited to. Maybe the white women who came to the party with him didn't leave the party with them. He didn't like that so much. So he made a personal vow to get marijuana off of the streets, to get back at those pesky jazz and swing entertainers. Don't listen to what everybody else says. Know your government, know legislation, know the laws that are being passed. This long drawn out battle that cannabis has fought to get to where it is today is not a new one. It's not the first time. Won't be the last. Now that we got some history out of the way, let's talk cannabis. 21 and over can purchase cannabis legally in dispensaries nationwide. One in particular, right here in Fresno, California, the Artist Tree. Nice enough to give us a little sneak peek at the process. Show us what any typical citizen would have to do if they woke up one morning, decided they wanted to purchase some cannabis. Take a look. We're gonna do some shopping.
Shopping today. If I could just scan your ID, please. Thank you so much. Whenever you're ready to place that order, head to that line on the right side. We'll have a guide member assist you, okay?
Lemonade, fruit punch, strawberry kiwi, cannabis infused Life H2O, original cola, root beer, good resin, cured resin, vape cartridge, liquid resin vape cartridge, good old fashioned marijuana. What's really cool, each of these little boxes that you see, they got, this little magnifying glass so you can get a really good look at it. And then when you push this thing, it spurts out. All right, let's make an order.
Hi, how's it going? Welcome to the Artistry. I'm Kyle. I'll be your guide today. How can I help you? So we have this brand over here. This is traditional. I would say one of the most popular ones out of this one will be the Mamba 24, the really heavy indica. I got this whole bottom row right here going for half off. Usually there's $72 out the door, but today they'll be about 36 bucks, 29 cents. All right, got one of those for you. And then was there anything else for you today?
That's gonna be it.
So with today's deal of 50% off on the Maven, your total's gonna come out to $36.29. And they'll call you when it's ready, all right?
Nice. Thank you very much.
No problem. You have a great day, all right? We'll see you next time.
You too.
How you doing today? Well, we got the honey lemon hibiscus. Half off today is going to be $36.30. You have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Overall, pleasant experience. Staff, knowledgeable, very helpful. If you are exploring cannabis for medicinal reasons, or recreational reasons, and if you're in Fresno, the Artistry is the place to come. Although cannabis has become legalized in multiple states across the country, scientists are still studying the effects it has on the human body, and rightfully so. In the next installation of this documentary, we'll dive into pros and cons of cannabis consumption, what kind of short-term, long-term effects it has on the human body and the development of the brain. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below, and you can always drop us a note at gvwire.com. Thanks for watching.